On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, Team Canada takes the Four Nations tournament in overtime, as it should have been, in a tournament we're going to be talking about for quite some time. Let's do it. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciate it. If you want to get in on the conversation, join our subtext. Link is in the show notes below. Chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. We get your opinion, everything Avalanche, and even Four Nations related, and we share it on this podcast. So we'll get to our Four Nations, our subtext people throughout the episode. They're sending in their thoughts on the tournament as a whole. And that's really where I want to start, Kyle, is we'll get to the game, but just this tournament just knocked it out of the park. It was every, and the funny thing is, when it was announced, you're a great person to kind of like talk about with this tournament, because you had some reservations. You weren't sure how it was going to go. This has just been an unqualified success, not unqualified success, a qualified success. It's just you can't even argue with what this tournament could potentially do. We'll talk about that as well for the game of hockey.
Yeah, because let's just think, like, I've been an NHL fan since like 95, 96. And when have they ever got it right? Like, we were championing and celebrating like their All-Star Game edition where they're shooting pucks into playing cards and the possibility of shooting into alligators' mouths. And we're like, wow, look at hockey. Isn't this great? And when you heard that, like, with the jaded history of the NHL, you hear, oh, they're not doing the All-Star Game this year. They're doing a fake Olympics, basically. And you're like, sure, whatever. You kind of anticipate it's going to be phoned in and it's going to fall apart some way. And I was just like, whatever. If it's not even an All-Star Game and they're just pretending, I have no interest. And then it got fired off. And it felt like the Olympics on steroids. Like the Olympics that has all the pageantry, all the history and all that. And it's got this form of respect and sportsmanship. This felt like hockey representing your country in the backyard. There was emotion. There was physicality. They did not care they have to go back to work. They don't care that they have to go back and finish a season, play for a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
It was like the season was over. We're playing for this and this alone. And what happens. And you saw that with the injury reports, and we'll see how teams return to the ice. But this was a spectacle. I never in a million years did I think it would go, not just the United States and Canada, but all four teams literally playing their hearts out. And you saw it in the ceremony at the end of the game. Like, that was true dejection and true elation on every face. And you don't even see that. You don't see that in All-Star games. You don't see that on a Tuesday night against San Jose. Like, this was the best thing the NHL has done since eliminating the two-line pass.
Yeah, I mean, it's you're right. You could read it on the faces of Team USA, and then the opposite for Team Canada. And that's what this comes down to, is what were the players going to do with this? How were they because they're the ones that wanted this, or something like it. Not specifically the Four Nations. They wanted best on best. They haven't done it in so long. And the league said, this is what we can do until we get to the Olympics. And it was up to the players to make this what it was. Because if they just went out and went through the motions and just made it like an all-star game, then we're just rebranding the all-star game as you're playing for a nation instead of a division or a conference. And it was not that. This was a mini Olympics. It genuinely was, and it worked. It worked to perfection. It was, I mean, this is what anybody was talking about in whatever sport you follow. So it's up to the league to take that momentum into the regular season. We'll see if that can happen. And that's a big if, but I like the fact that it's happening when it is, because the playoffs are not that far away. And the announcers for ESPN even said it towards the end of the game, where they were like, if you are new to this, or if you're just getting into hockey, this isn't an anomaly. This is what you will get when you watch NHL hockey. This isn't, and he didn't say this part, but this isn't the NBA where regular season they dog it and they pick it up in the playoffs. You get this in the regular season. So if you're jumping on board, you're jumping on board at a good time. Welcome aboard, and the play is not going to dip because we're going back to the regular season. You still get all-out effort from these guys.
You want me to make this a little bit just sillier for you? There was not a home ice advantage in the Stanley Cup up for grabs. There was not an additional $1 million to your team and a charity of your choice. There wasn't a brand new Kia on the line. There was a literal meaningless trophy. It could have been last year's fantasy football trophy with 4 nations slapped on it. And they sold everything for this game. We've seen other leagues try and, sweeten the pot for, hey, if you show up and play, you get an additional this. And where it was the conversation going into the All-Star games of the past were who's taking that fine and that additional suspension for not playing in the game. Alexander Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby never wanted to be a part. You had players literally leaving their teams in hopes to, and did not even play, were there in hopes to play in this tournament. And that just shows you the pride and respect and the pageantry of this sport. Literally nothing was on the line. Nobody's life has changed. You got etched into a cup of one. You are the one name on this cup.
Yeah.
That is the lineage stops there. And we got probably some of the best hockey since the 90s. It's inconceivable.
It needed hockey to bring in, to expand the game. It has a baked in audience. There are people who are diehard hockey guys, if you're looking at 2 of them, that will watch anything that the league puts out. But
and PWHL and minor league hockey.
There you go. Right. But in any sport, you have to go out and you want to consistently and continue to try and grab new people into the sport. And it's tough to do that when you're just putting out a regular season and then a playoff and then a championship and just over and over and over again. You have to incorporate new things, and leagues try new things all the time. Some work, some don't. And I think the fact that you did not have any best on best for a decade, and there's a lot of reasons why, the Olympic Committee and the whole insurance thing, and then COVID, and there's a lot of reasons why you have. So this was wanted because it was longed for. Players obviously were wanting it. Fans were wanting it because it's been so long since you've seen any of it outside of a regular NHL season. So now that you had it and it's on, with just the social media being what it is, and word of mouth spreading so much quicker now, they took it and ran with it. And I am really, I'm just happy for the sport of hockey. I'm happy for the NHL because they deserve it. These guys deserve it. They go out and they play. From a salary standpoint, they make the least amount of money and play, as many games as an NBA schedule, and they're going all out every single day. And it's such a good sport that I say it to so many people who just know I'm a hockey guy, and they just watch it.
Yeah,
that's all I can tell you to do is just watch it, and you genuinely will fall in love with the game. And the whole talk about, I can only watch hockey games live. Remember that was a talking point for so long. I can enjoy a game when I'm there. I don't buy that anymore. And that's just gone out the window. Sit down, watch it, or pick a team if you want to pick a team. Just if you're new to it and you want to pick a team, go ahead. If you like certain colors, I don't care. however you want to watch it, sit down and watch it. And people sat down and watched this. Really excited to see what the numbers are for this game. And it won't hold everybody, but I think it'll hold enough where the league will be happy for what happens after this tournament for the rest of the season.
And I'm telling you, I feel like I stepped into Bizarro World, and this needs to go out. This goes right to the ears of whoever is going to be taking the place of Gary Bettman. In a 24-hour sports news cycle, we have heard ESPN and MLB are mutually separating from their television rights, which is interesting. Yeah, that they are, after this season, ESPN and Major League Baseball no longer have an agreement.
Really?
And this, yes.
Does that mean they're not going to come to a new agreement, or they're just going their separate ways?
They mutually agreed to go their separate ways.
Wow.
And also in a 24-hour period, the NBA, the darling of this four-letter network, has been bashed on every talk show because of the effort. And who's leading the charge? A former NHL guy hyping up a game. And we talk about getting new eyes and what the NHL has to do. They literally did nothing different but put best on best and put the best tournament and the best game of hockey on. No gimmicks, no frills, no thrills, no fluff, no hoops, no three-point line, no get a goal in the last 2 minutes, no golden at bat like MLB is trying to do. Pure, simple hockey. Represent your nations.
That's the difference.
And go for it.
That's what they did. Was made it you're representing a nation.
Yeah, and it's
and that made all the difference.
And it's so simple. And this goes to the future, whoever's replacing Bettman. Don't over gimmick. Just put on good hockey. That's all that we want. And you could see it's paying dividends now. And we're talking about salary cap going up. You retain these fans, a gate-driven league, the salary cap way through the roof.
Yeah.
Just hold on.
And you're right, man. Like, don't overthink this, because the players will do their part. They showed you that they will do their part. And that's my question for other leagues who are looking at this like, oh, maybe we should do something that's more global. And okay, but you have to get your players to buy in too. And you know, I know, like you said, like the NBA is kind of getting dragged right now. I've been dragging it for years because I feel like they just dog it in that way. It's tough to watch for me because I'm going from a sport that just gives maximum effort to a sport where every team scores 130 points. And it's just like, I can't buy into that. How are you going to get players to buy into NBA players specifically to buy into something like this on a global scale? I think it's difficult. I think it's a tough sell. It's not for hockey players. They take that as pride and they wear it as a badge of honor. And it shows in their play. I'm not saying NBA players wouldn't be proud to represent their country, but would it show in their play? I don't know. So I think that's the main difference here is the NHL said, we will do this. You got to hold up your end of the bargain. The players did that hand over fist.
And you can't tell me this best on best concept isn't what is the core here, because just look at what the PWHL just did on their tour. Every arena that they went to, they sold out in excess to the point where every town is screaming for a franchise. You put best on best and highlight your game as it is without over gimmicking, good things happen. And the NHL hasn't been able to do that in at least over a decade. And you're going to see the benefits of that. Yeah. And everything is good for the NHL rolling forward.
It really is. This is as good as it's been in a while. So let's talk about this game specifically, though, because it was enjoyable.
Let me keep talking about everything else.
Yeah, everything else but the elephant in the room, whose initials are JB. So we'll do that next. Let's hear from FanDuel, because when the game tips off, the NBA action, talking about the NBA, is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And with FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. So right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com and join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets, and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Not to brag a little bit, but didn't I say it was going to be 3-2 overtime?
Shut up.
Didn't I say that?
Stop it. Stop.
I think I did.
Pretty sure. You sick man.
Roll
when
the
that
tape.
thing rolled into overtime, I was like, Chris Vaselli, I swear.
I did not go to FanDuel and put money on that, though, however. But
yeah, you should have.
And this was exactly like this. 100%. This is how I wanted the game to go. Overtime. Didn't really care who won. But I was rooting for the Avalanche guys to maybe score that overtime goal. That would have been 2 thumbs up. But I was just this game, like just from a viewership standpoint, was just exactly how you want a tournament like this that's done everything well before the championship game to have a championship game that holds up to the billing, and it did. And it goes into overtime, and Connor McDavid is your golden goal, if you want to call it that. He had a tough game. He had a tough tournament, really. Connor McDavid did, and I think this is just what. No, but I know you like rag on him a lot, and I'm a fan of his. But when this is true across the board, though, when you have this many top-notch players, it's tough to find open ice, and maybe you're pressing a little bit too much and gripping the stick a little bit too hard. But how he was that wide open right in the house there at the end, I don't know. How they lost track of him, I don't know. I mean, it was kind of right off a face-off, but he buries the game-winning goal to give it to Canada. But overall, a very, very exciting game.
And you know what? As you were talking about it, like the pop and circumstance just right there, I'm thinking in real time, I didn't see one goalie interference replay this entire tournament.
I think you're right. I watched every game. I don't think there was one.
And this goes back to the quality of it and like the beautiful like movie-like game that we just witnessed. Not one fluky call where you're like, oh, come on. Like, the calls were tight. The goals were not fluky. They were all deserved. And, like, they had meaning behind them. And this game naturally goes to overtime. And let's be real here. Like, the game's over. We could take off our country's jerseys. The tournament's over. It's meaningless. It's silly. That was a nothing trophy. We can talk about it as it is. But no, like, Canada had the better team. Like, they had the Kachucks. We have the Kachucks, and we have Austin Matthews. Like, they're the punching bags every time we talk about these matchups. So, I mean, like, yeah, they're the best of the United States, but I mean, Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar, Devon Tays, like, you can keep going and going. They have the better team, and what better way for Canada to secure this Four Nations tournament trophy than a Mitch Marner to Connor McDavid and that goalie for St. Louis having a time in overtime. But that's the perfect like stat line that you can say that was a great tournament, and of course it had to be a Maple Leaf to an Oiler.
Yeah, I mean the USA team was built to beat Canada, and they did once, and you took them to overtime where anything can happen. Their goaltending is far and away the better goaltending, and that's a very well built Team USA. And I think the thing with Team Canada is there's more household names on Team Canada by far, and we're talking about like those new people that are maybe coming into the sport and watching this tournament. They can probably relate, and they are more familiar with more of the names on Team Canada, probably by far. But that doesn't mean that the Team USA does not have.
Yeah, they're a great team, but Canada's got elite talent. That's the difference. Yeah. Great team, elite talent. A team of elite talent.
Right. But USA and the defensive people that they have there made it difficult for them. Jacob Slavin maybe put on the best defensive performance I have ever seen in a hockey game, ever. And if Team USA won, I would have. If I had a vote, he would have been my MVP. And I don't think he scored a point in the entire tournament. Like, that's how good he was.
To the point
where really turned my thinking on him. He was amazing.
Like ESPN was pulling up that stat of leads the league in turnover and blocks leading to turnovers. I didn't even know that was the stat you could track. I was like, sure, whatever, ESPN.
Yeah.
He's also the league leader in blocks on a Tuesday, I bet. But like it's he like totally sold it, and again for nothing, like a meaningless trophy. But like he's going to be black and blue and bruised. But boy, it's worth it, and like you could feel it, the emotion in that game. They didn't want to lose. They wanted to win that game in Boston in front of that crowd. And Canada they rolled it out, and good for them. We'll keep the Stanley Cup. You can enjoy that Four Nations trophy.
And yeah, like while Jacob Slavin is someone that's I've turned the tide on it. Not that I thought anything bad of him, just he played so well. I'm like, wow, like okay, I'm gonna pay attention more attention to him now. One of the guys I dislike the most in this league, and I think you are the same, is Jordan Binnington. He's not a favorite of mine.
Nope.
He is not a favorite of a lot of people who do not root for the St. Louis Blues. But even when there's guys that you dislike, cannot stand, and with good reason, when they play excellent, you have to acknowledge it. And as difficult as that is right now for me and probably for you, he made some incredible saves in that overtime period and in the third. But, you can focus in because it's win or go home in overtime, obviously. He made some incredible saves. So for the one and only time, I will give Jordan Binnington some credit here, a lot of credit, because he was really, really good in that overtime period. The rest of the tournament, normal Jordan Binnington.
Dog water.
Yeah, but for that, when you need a player to step up, he stepped up. That was big time goaltending in overtime.
Yeah, good for you, Binnington. You had a good overtime.
You got to give him credit, man. You have to.
We had Connor Hellebuck.
Yeah,
and like I'll give it to him. He had a good overtime, but again, it's one of those emotions. Like you get overtime with those two teams, like you're going to play out of your mind. And you got to see the best you'll get to see out of Jordan Binnington for the next 5 years.
Well, I mean, how old is he now? So you're not getting the Jordan Binnington of 2019 anymore.
No. So
he just kept it tight. He kept it there and, came out on top. Nathan MacKinnon, he got the goal scoring going in this game, scored the first goal. Just an incredible shot. Just when someone like that, anybody takes a shot like that, you can't think like I'm in the perfect position for this puck to go in the net, because I think you're just throwing, and that's what you do. You just throw it on net and let the hockey gods take it from there, because how that puck went through that many players, didn't touch a soul, I don't know. But it's just incredible when stuff like that happens. But he scores the first goal. He wins the MVP of this thing. He had the most goals scored through out of anybody, 4, I believe it was. So he gets the MVP pretty much based on that. So another thing to add to the mantle and the resume of Nathan MacKinnon. He was good in this.
I guess it's fitting if you're going to have a movie type final and you have the Bash Brothers on one side, you got to have a knuckle puck on the other side. And that's what Nathan MacKinnon had to get the goal scoring started. And I was worried when I saw that first goal go in by Nathan MacKinnon, the almost primal reaction and that celebration he had coming out of his face. I was like, oh my God, Nathan MacKinnon he means business tonight. And I was like, and they pushed back, and it was a good game all the way through. But yes, Nathan MacKinnon was the absolute player of the tournament. Yeah. He put on a show. Keep that going when you come home. Nate.
Yeah. And I thought it was a tight game. Like you just saw how evenly matched these teams were. Like it was a lot of back and forth, a lot of tough opportunities. Like you were not getting anything easy at all. Like when you tried to go from the wing to the center of the ice, you were getting met by multiple people, and you could not dangle around any of them because they're all world players. And that's what makes this fun. You get a mismatch in a regular hockey game where, there's a fourth liner that gets stuck out there for a little while. And here comes Nathan MacKinnon. He's going to get around that guy. When that happens in this game, your fourth liner is an all-star.
Yeah.
And it's tough to really create. And you saw that, but to me, that's fun hockey. That's good defensive hockey. That's not lazy hockey. That's just good defensive hockey. And you had to work. You had to work for your goals. You had to work for your opportunities. And you saw guys doing that. It was fun. It opened up a little bit more in the third, I thought, just some more chances. And in overtime, did that not give you, oh man, the playoffs are right around the corner?
Yeah.
Vibes from that overtime, just because it's just next goal wins. And it just made me look forward to a couple months from now when the playoffs finally start.
I've gone back and forth on this point a couple times through the tournament. Now I kind of wish the trade deadline was before this tournament, because that's the next hurdle you gotta get through. Yeah. Like I was like, oh man, the playoffs are almost here, but I was like, oh, what are the Avalanche going to look like? And I'm just like, I would like to get excited, but I would, next time we do this, schedule a tournament, trade deadline, everybody go into this tournament, and then right into the playoffs. Oh man, you want to talk about carrying over those numbers? Ooh.
Yeah, I was hoping this game wouldn't go too much into overtime, because Avalanche are playing in almost 36 hours here, so don't go too far into overtime. But you could kind of tell the way that the game was going, something was gonna.
Yeah, thankfully they're in Boston. They're not on the moon, so it's not like we're having to wait for them to travel all the way back.
Yeah. So, and did you see how much of the post game did you watch? They all got medals, so which was a surprise. You didn't see any of it.
I actually kind of raged a bit, and I was like,
really?
Yeah,
I was happy for him, dude.
From going from this is the dumbest tournament I've ever heard of to I can't even watch this. I'm so emotionally invested. I don't want to see them going around with a trophy that I think is meaningless. Like, to be that invested, that kind of flip.
Yeah, that's big.
That's big. Like
that's crazy.
And I was sitting here thinking, like, what am I doing? Like, I wanted nothing to do with watching them go around with a meaningless trophy, because I wanted it more. And it made me mad that they had it. And that's a big 180.
Completely flipped on this. Yeah, that's crazy. But they did. They all got medals. They all got like gold medals. Team USA wasn't even out there. They shook hands and Team USA went to the locker room. So I don't know if Team USA gets silver medals in this. I don't know.
Oh, pulled the old Connor McDavid, huh?
Yeah. So but then it was funny. Like they presented him the trophy, and they asked for Sidney Crosby to come over. He's like, no, everybody's coming with me. So they give him the trophy. And they did do a Stanley Cup thing, but you could see some guys were like, I'm not comfortable doing this.
Yeah.
And go back and watch Connor McDavid. Like, he's given the trophy and he lifts it maybe like to here. Like it maybe like crosses in front of his face, and he's like, I'm not doing this. This is not the one that I want. I'm sure he's more than excited, but he was like, I am not raising this thing over my head. Like, I just won the Stanley Cup. He took it, acknowledged it, passed it to whoever was next. It was pretty funny.
The most telling thing about all of that was when I turned it off. Sidney Crosby was taking off his bucket, and he's got salt and pepper hair.
He does.
And I'm like, I turn it off, and then it goes from old Sidney Crosby to my television being off, and then my reflection in it. And I'm like, I'm old.
I can see myself in
like,
Sidney Crosby. That is great. He's no longer Sid the kid.
Nope.
Man.
Sid's got grandkids at this point.
All right. So we'll talk quickly about what comes next after this in terms of something like this. And then we have 3 final grades to give out. And then we'll be all caught up on our quote unquote mid-season grades. So we'll do all that next. All right, in sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, the Olympics, even the Four Nations tournament. And the same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from SelectQuote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. SelectQuote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. And what sets SelectQuote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers, that offer a one-size-fits-all policy. Their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage of up to $5 million with no medical exam required. And it's more affordable than you might think. You can get up to a $1 million coverage policy for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. SelectQuote, they shop, you save. All right, Kyle. So the big question now is, what comes next? And we know what comes next as far as like next year's the Olympics, and then they're doing the World Cup of Hockey. But after that, like we've said before, there is no way you can go back to an All-Star game.
Nope.
No.
Bye-bye NHL All-Star game.
It is gone. Good riddance.
Especially with PK doing the rounds that he's doing.
Yeah.
You can't bash the NBA's All-Star game and then go right back to your pathetic one.
Like what you can do is because I know and there's some contracts and stuff like that say, hey, if you make the All-Star team, you get a bonus and stuff like that. Like if you want to have voting and say like at the end of the year and say you are a All-Star for this season, fine. And you're anointed an All-Star and you get a nice little Rolex watch for that. And we move on. But playing the game has got to be done because you cannot go back to it. So what do we do next for this? I mean, this could be the one and only time there is a 4 nations tournament because you'd have to think they are going to expand this to 6 next time. So is that the kind of the routine here? Olympics, World Cup of Hockey, 4 nations, whatever, 6 nations. And then there's one more thing that you have to fill after that. You got to have 4 different events. What do we do here?
I say just go with the All Nations tournament. Just call it the All Nations.
Just make it like another Olympics, though? I mean, would they
just like it could be the big reveal, like we're inviting this country and get the hype around the game. It'll be fun. Change it out. You never know. It'll be fun. But do that. Go Olympics, World Cup of Hockey, and then the All Nations tournament. And then keep that 4th one open. Keep it like you want to do a novelty kind of like
your test year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Keep that open. Don't ruin the magic by constantly trying to repeat, like try and catch lightning in a bottle over and over and over. Mm-hmm. Allow yourself to have a little bit of room where you can come up with some kind of goofy little thing, do a one-off, and if it works, cool, keep it. There's your 4th. But if it doesn't, retool it and try it again in 4 years.
What if you keep it at 4 nations and like relegate a team every time you do it? Like the team that finishes in last, they're no longer in it, and you bring in like Czechia or something like that, or Russia's going to want to get into this, or maybe you make it 6 nations and then you relegate a team or relegate a nation. I don't know how that'd go over so well, but I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, that would have to be one of the things to up the ante on the next whatever nations tournament it will be. You got to introduce like relegation and promotion. Mm-hmm. I think that would be a wonderful aspect to keep some intrigue around the game, but that's what you need to do. And don't like overdo it either. Like you got Olympics, which is a big deal. World Cup of Hockey, you're bringing that back. You're going to try and keep 4 nations going. Then every 4 years, do something just gimmicky. Like make it an alumni. Like give every player off and just do like alumni games.
I kind of like it being like 4 nations because you're going to have the World Cup. That's including like a lot of nations. You got obviously the Olympics, which includes a lot of nations. This is more confined.
Yeah.
I like it like that. We don't need to make every tournament that they do grand and including everybody. That's what I'm saying. Maybe like rotate the nations out that are you're always going to have Canada. You're always going to have the US. I don't know how you tell someone like Sweden and Finland, you're not in it anymore. Like that's not fair to them. But you got to figure out a way because I like the small
playing round
robin thing or yeah, that's not but then, I mean, how much are we extending it though? Like we don't want to take out,
keep it 4 nations and then 4 nations, the team that finished last gets to play in for the last spot against whatever.
It's like a 1 game play in or something that could happen. That's a good idea. All right. Yeah. So but the bottom line here is like, so much is opened up to hockey.
The bottom line is
because
no
of this
more
tournament.
All-Star game.
That is the bottom line. Thank God for that. Really, like, there's no way you can bring that thing back.
Yep.
But hockey, this is just a monumental success for this tournament. So really excited to see where things go from here. All right. Last thing we're gonna do, we're gonna do these quickly, and that is 3 more and final mid-season grades. We got Devon Taves, we got Miles Wood, and we have Scott Wedgwood, right? We're gonna do Wedgwood too. So we did Blackwood, we did Marty Natius, we're gonna do Wedgwood as well. So we'll start with Taser. So what do you got for him? What's his stats on the season? 53 games played, 6 goals, 21 assists, 27 points. He's a plus 19. He's just a plus minus machine, man. And as I'm looking at his stats, that 21-22 season when he was plus 52.
Yeah.
Love it. Plays a ton of minutes, 24-46 average ice time, 3 game-winning goals, 2 overtime goals. To do it all, he's a utility man. Like, he's a Swiss Army knife. He's great. What do you got?
A minus.
Okay.
Hovering at B plus.
Okay.
I mean,
Why?
yes.
What's he done differently that you're not going to give him like the solid A? I mean, A minus is fine, but
yeah, he hasn't. It's not like he's doing bad. He's just not. That we talk about that next level, like that consistency, and like to begin the year, he had some real stinkers and some like not Taser kind of like turnovers and decisions, and it was a rocky start, and there have been games like it's been feast or famine. Let's not pretend like the Avalanche are first in the Central. Like, their place right now, there have been games where you really needed him to step up. Granted, he's been a vocal leader. I'll give him all that all day long. That's why I rested at A minus and not the B plus because of everything he's done off the ice. But I know he could give a little bit more. I don't know if he's just like settling comfortably in this role, but I would like to see a little bit of more of a hunger factor, a little bit more of a grit and edge. But I mean, he's still incredible. I'm not saying anything this is like bad or negative. It's just I would like just like a little bit more. Like you're good in your role and you're comfortable and you're doing as always. But there's been times we need you to do just a little bit more, and it's just not there.
You might be thinking that because he is dealing with an injury that he said he's going to be dealing with all season long.
That could be.
And when we were talking about this Four Nations thing, we talked about it, of him maybe not playing in it to if 2 weeks off would whatever is ailing him would be fixed. Maybe he should take this off. He clearly did not, and I think it's just one of those things where it's like it's not going to get worse, whatever it is, but it's not going to get better. So he's just going to, grit his teeth and get through it. Maybe it's that. Maybe that's why you're feeling that way. But even despite whatever that is, he's a solid A as they come for me. Like I mean, if you had some rough games at the beginning of the season, we're going to look back at the beginning of the season and it was rough for everybody, for the Avs. It was not a good start for anybody. But he is just a model of consistency, and he's just one of those guys when it's time for his shift, we're going to have a good shift, and he's going to be right place, right time, do what he's got to do, give them the best opportunity to score, give them the best opportunity to prevent a score, and he gets back on the bench.
Yeah.
I love the guy. I love him. So we'll go to Miles Wood because I don't want to end on a downer. So we'll go over to him next. It's been a struggle for Miles this year. 23 games played. Obviously, it was the very rare month-to-month injury, which he had, I think, back in November, I think it was. So he's only had the 23 games, 2 goals, 1 assist for 3 points. He's a -4. His ice time has dipped. He's down to 11:35 average ice time. I think he's in a very real danger spot of being moved at this trade deadline. We'll see. But that doesn't mean I don't like him. I really, he is the energy guy.
Yep.
And I really, I I always say with Josh Manson, it's like feast or famine, and you get what you get. That's the forward position for Miles Wood. He will make some just what are you doing plays, and then he will make some maximum effort hustle plays where you're like, that's my guy. But I don't feel like those plays have been as much as the former for this year.
All right, everybody, get your hands ready. Put them on the keyboard. Get ready to roast me. But this comes with history. Like, I'm giving Miles a D.
I don't think people are gonna be mad at you.
Okay, because I remember when he came over, I was almost parading around. I loved his game in New Jersey. I was a huge fan of him in New Jersey, and I thought, oh, if we could get this Miles Wood in Colorado, he's going to be making some things happen. Mm-hmm. And guess what? We did not get that Miles Wood. It's been like a ghost of Miles Wood, and it's just not the same. And it's kind of sad to keep watching. Like, I love the energy, but we need more than energy, and we need kind of results. It's nice to be a cannonball, and it's nice to do the things nobody else wants to do, but maybe nobody else is doing it because it's not winning you games. So I'm giving him a D.
I mean, last year, the first year with the Avalanche, he kind of was in the same realm of all of his career numbers. The goals dropped off a little bit. He only had 9 goals, which was the lowest he's had since basically his rookie season.
Yep.
In 16-17 when he had 8. But overall points, he had 26. And if you look at year after year, he's in that realm. He's in the mid-20s almost all the time. That's as far as points go. But that's not what you rely on Miles Wood for. It's like we said, like the energy and all that stuff. But with that comes just mistakes. And I think that's where the Avalanche are focused on right now. It's like, hey, man, if you can give us the effort, like look at Logan O'Connor. Like he will give you maximum effort and won't make these just egregious errors that Miles Wood does. So I think they're looking at, and especially this year, even though he's only played, was it 24 games, 23 games, the mistakes are on display this year for him. So I don't know if he's just trying to overcompensate because he hasn't played a lot of games this year and is trying to, just get back into the thick of things quicker than he should be doing. I don't know, but I thought last year he was okay, like what they needed from him. But in the short amount of games that he's played this year, the few amount of games he's played this year, I don't know. It's just a really different vibe from Miles Wood this year. It's like the shine has worn off so quickly on him, which is kind of surprising.
That was his thing in New Jersey, was he would either bring a line together or completely torpedo it. Like you had him like bringing like Sharon Govich and Jesper Bratt and like whoever they paired him with, like he would always find either success or make them terrible. Like Nico Hischier has been enjoying not having him around. And like they had Dougie Hamilton struggling as well on defense. And when you have Dougie struggling like he did and they say, we'll let Miles Wood go, that should tell you something.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with him. But last but not least, one of the newer guys of the club, that's Scott Wedgwood, backup goalie, which it's been well documented. But they needed him. They needed someone like him to take the spot over. I'm interested to see what you're giving Mr. Wedgwood here.
B+.
See, I'm gonna do it, Kyle.
Do it.
I'm gonna give him an A+.
That's fine.
I'm gonna give him an A+, and it's not. It's so much more than just like the numbers. I don't even have his numbers in front of me because I don't care about them. It's more of the stability. We have gone from the goalie position. Right. The goalie position is going to sink this team for this year. To we don't worry about the goalie position anymore, and he's part of the reason. Like it's back to the whole like, hey, when Frankie's going to be starting in net, okay, we feel confident. We're back to that. At least for now, we are. And we'll see if that can continue for what's left of the season. But he has come in and he has done a phenomenal job in a backup role. And just because you're a backup and don't play that much doesn't mean you can't earn an A+. You get an A+ from me, Scott Wedgwood. Wear it like a badge of honor.
And this isn't a negative because of a B+. I just want to see a little bit more of a sample size from him because there are many teams, Dallas, Nashville, New Jersey, who like they had Wedgwood and they also had the same feelings, and then they don't. So I kind of want to see just a little bit longer. Loving literally hasn't done a single thing wrong in my mind. I'm just hesitant to go all the way yet.
Mm-hmm. I got it. That's totally fine. And I'm sure, there's nobody that wants to give him an A+. Maybe there is. We'll see. I'm interested to see what the comments are, but he's got an A+ from me because where we were with the goalie position to where we are, both goalies are getting A+ from me. That's where we're at. So, all right, that is going to wrap it up for today and for this week. So, what a week it's been. What last couple weeks it's been. I'm going to miss it. I feel like I'm going to miss the Four Nations tournament. You're not?
I want NHL action.
I do too, but this is so much fun.
It has been fun. It's been a wonderful distraction, but I still really want the Avs to start making some momentum, and I want them. I want to get back to that.
You're right. Yeah. As soon as they hit the ice on Saturday, I'm like, oh yeah, this is much better. So we will be back to talk about the games over the weekend on Monday. So make sure you tune in to that. But thank you for tuning into this and making it your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. He's Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys later. And you're 24 hours closer to getting what you just got in the Four Nations tournament. And that's Sidney Crosby playing alongside Nathan MacKinnon.
But he's old.